Hi, I'm Mark, and welcome to the current Outside Views report on Russia's war of aggression against Ukraine. The T-14 Armata is considered one of the best main battle tanks in the world. But why is the Russian army then still withdrawing it from Ukraine? Because the Russian army has apparently withdrawn its T-14 Armata main battle tanks from Ukraine in order to carry out improvements on the vehicle. The Russian news agency TASS only reported in mid-July that the Combat Group South was now using the super tank actively in combat. Since the beginning of the war, there has been speculation as to whether Kremlin chief Vladimir Putin stationed the T-14 in Ukraine. The tank is considered one of the best models in the world and is known, among other things, for protecting the crew from attacks in the best possible way. But we are not so aware of the skills. In January, the British Ministry of Defense reported that Russia had sent several T-14 tanks to Ukraine in poor condition. The armed forces there were reluctant to accept because of their miserable condition. In recent years, Russian officials have repeatedly spoken publicly about problems with the tank's engines and thermal imaging systems, at least as sources in London say. Even Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu said in 2021 that the production run planned for 2022 should only be an experimental batch. The British therefore considered it unlikely that the T-14 tanks deployed in Ukraine would meet the usual standards for operational equipment. In April, it was then said that the T-14 would be used in Ukraine away from the front. TASS, among others, reported that Russia had deployed T-14 tanks in Ukraine to test them. The Armata tank has been used several times in the war zone in Ukraine. Based on the results of the operation, the vehicle is now being improved. That's how the news agency quoted a Russian defense industry source as saying. The T-14s were used by the Combat Group South to evaluate performance in a real war zone. After that, the tanks were withdrawn from the front line. And according to TASS, Ilya Onegov, representative of responsible tank manufacturer Ural Vagonzavod, said about the test with the super tanks, "So far, this product reflects the best of the Armata. Many innovations are not visible because they are inside the vehicle, but the improvements of the vehicle continues." When and if the T-14 would be used again in Ukraine was not clear from the statements. It is also unclear whether the super tanks will be mass-produced. The T-14 Armata was first introduced to the public in 2015. The Military Watch magazine reported the cost of a super tank was estimated at $5 million, but Western sanctions made production difficult. And the British Ministry of Defense also believes it's very likely that Russia has cancelled a military exercise planned for September. The exercise Zapad, which means West, should actually have been the highlight of the military training year, as the British wrote in their daily update on short message service X on Monday. The previous Zapad 21 operation was the largest Russian exercise since Soviet time, and now 23 was due. The underperformance of the Russian military in Ukraine showed that joint strategic exercises had limited value and were mainly for show, the ministry wrote. Russia probably cancelled Zapad 23 due to insufficient troops and equipment. The leadership may also fear criticism in the country if they hold another brilliantly presented military exercise in times of war. The British Ministry of Defense has published daily information on the course of the war since the beginning of the Russian war of aggression in Ukraine. And Moscow accuses London of disinformation, though, but we all know who are the big guys with fake information. I'll talk about this especially in tomorrow's video, by the way. If you want to see something right now about the developments in the war, the next video is right here in the end screen. I'll see you there. I'll be back.